Hello and welcome everyone. I have only recorded one video in my life before, which was when I was a guest design team member. I've been a design team member of several crafting groups for many years now, and I thought it might be nice just to make a video and see how that goes. So if you like it, let me know and I will try and do some more. If it doesn't go very well, then you may not see any more. Anyway, I am a design team member for Stamp Addicts, and they produce rubber stamps which are deeply etched and available all over the world, I believe. And their latest release, they have this lovely lady who I've stamped out here, and as you can see, they come mounted on foam, which you can attach to just a block. And I thought I would colour this lady today, and I have created a mask for her. So as you can see, I'm just going to pop that over and we'll get going, and I'm going to use some inks and just see what we create. I have no ideas in mind particularly. I'm just going to go with the flow. I thought I would give her a background, so I have also got one of their other stamps, which is this porcelain background stamp, and I thought we would do a little bit of a border around the outside and take it from there really. Colour her in, just give her something to sit on. So I'm going to use some hickory smoke distress oxide and just drop that. I'm going to do this without a block and just kind of put some ink on there, and so that I don't get any harsh edges, I'm going to just wipe around the edge just to soften that a little bit. And then if I do go over any of those edges that I've created with the ink pad, you shouldn't see. And I've decided just to do it straight over the whole image this time, because I've obviously got the mask there, and that's looking really good actually. Okay, so I need a little bit more around this side, so I'm going to actually do that with the ink that's left on there and just kind of press it on a little bit. There we go, and I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to put some water on here and just clean this off a little bit. Okay, so I'll pop that to the side. So now I need to decide whether I'm going to do anything else before I take the mask off. And actually, I think I'm going to leave it there. So let's take the mask off. Beautiful. Okay. Now, I normally keep the mask with the stamp. So what I've done is on the back of here, I've just popped that. Okay. And as you can see, I've actually cut in all around this stamp. And the closer you can get, the less chance of getting any edges appearing around here. Because if the ink gets onto the edge of that bit of rubber, then you get a line. So let's give it a go. I'm going to do a little bit of watercolouring, I think, today. So I have a tiny brush, which I'm going to use. I have some water, which I'm going to spritz here. And then I'm going to use some distress oxides that I pull out. Now I have these all in front of me, so you can't see them all. But I'm going to start with some saltwater taffy. And I'm going to just put a little bit of that onto my mat, and then I can pick that up with a little tiny bit of water, and I'm going to just start on her face. Okay, now we don't want it to be really pink, so I'm just going to get a little bit more water, because we just want kind of a general sense of the fact that her face is coloured. Now I'm colouring onto watercolour cardstock, and this is a 300 GSM watercolour card, so it will allow me to put quite a little bit of water on there. Grab a little bit more colour. And you can just see that tinge of kind of colour there. I don't want masses, and we'll just work that in. Okay, and down into her neck. And onto her arm. And we'll also do her hand. Now I'm just going to pick up a slight bit more colour and just pop it on to highlight certain areas. So it would be darker just under the chin here. And you can see that the stamp tells us that. I've also got a piece of paper here that I keep wiping off on. So you can see under here there are all those black speckles, and that gives a sense of that's where it's supposed to be darker. So I'm just going to do it a tiny bit darker up here as well. And under those things. I'm going to get a tiny bit more out of that. And I might change the colour of her lips later. I will have a look and see. And I just went out of the lip there, which is why I quickly just dabbed that. There we go. And we have a little bit of darkness there now. On the top of your shoulder, and if it's more than you want, you just brush it out a little bit. Okay, and then on her hand. And then I'm just going to put a little bit darker down here too. And into there. Okay, so that's our base layer of colour for her. Now on her dress, I want this to be quite a light, summery, kind of pretty card. So I think I'm going to keep the colours fairly light. I'm going to do some of her hair now. So I'm going to pick out some kind of reddy browny colours, I think. Let's just wipe this up a little, this ink here. So I have some Rusty Hinge, which is quite an orangey brown. Then I'm going to pick some Walnut Stain, which is a deep brown. So that's Walnut Stain. And we'll see how we get on with those. I'm not sure what kind of colour this will give me to begin with, but we'll go with it. And I usually just kind of start with a coating of one colour and then kind of try and work the other colours in. So I'm going to grab a little bit of the, oh, it's quite orange actually, isn't it? So I'm going to just knock that back a little bit, pick up some water and take that off a little bit. Yeah, because that's a little bit intense. So I'm going to pull that out so that it's less intense. That's a bit better. And you can see you kind of get the shadows then if you build up from the edges. And because you've got a layer already on there, it gives you something to work off. And then you can always highlight with your white highlighter pen. So this time I'm going to go in with the orangier one down here. Because we all know there's different tones in our hair, so therefore we want the different colours. And then we'll get some more of this Walnut Stain and we'll bring that over. Now, you could kind of give her a coverage, but I tend to do each strand when I'm doing hair. It just seems the right way to me. And I don't know whether that's good or bad, but it's the way I do it. So I'm just going back over some of these as well. And you can just keep going. Because it's watercolour card, it's kind of quite forgiving in a way. So you can just keep going back and adding more. And then if you want to take a bit off, you blot it. But you just keep building it up. Grab a bit of water so you can get some more and come out again. Then I want it to be darker underneath those petals. I like the kind of the thing that you can go as light or as heavy as you want, really, and you control that. And if you want to mix a little bit of both, you can do that too. So quite often I'll do that, as I've just done, and you have a little bit of both on there, and it gives you just yet another tone. And just keep building and building. So maybe some of you can explain to me, show me some of the pictures that you've got when you've tried this sort of thing. How do you all get on? You know, we all have our own ways of actually doing things. So maybe you've got something you can share with me as well. So you can see you can start out really, really pale and kind of just build it and build it. It's a little bit more contrast in the middle of that one. I think as you do more and more of these, you'll get more confident as well. And at the end of the day, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect either. That one's quite orange. But we'll cover that with some brown and just blend it all in. Because as I say, they're all different tones anyway in our hair. A little bit more water, and I'm not putting any more ink onto my brush. I'm just trying to soften those lines there. Okay. So, get a little bit more. And we'll come in over here this time. In hindsight, I'm now thinking that going for the pink first may not have been the best idea since I've got all this colour nearby, but hopefully it will be fine. And we can just carry it all on. Makes it a lot easier when there are bigger sections, because you can just sort of go quite quickly then, grab a bit more, because it's obviously going to be darker there where you've got the highlight on there. And as you can see, you just keep building and building. The other bit that I always find, oh, let's just do that bit there, I missed a little bit down there. The other thing that I find is sometimes you struggle to work out what's hair and what's flowers and all of that. So I think sometimes you have to do a little bit of the flowers and then maybe come back, you know, and then you'll see the wood for the trees, as they say, because then you can see by doing some of the flowers what you've missed of the hair. So I mean, there's pretty much that bit down there that I can see, and that bit in there, and this is why it's so good to have a small brush, because you can just literally do tiny little bits. And then you've got these tiny tendrils as well. And again, it's trying to decipher which bits are the hair and which bits aren't. And it is hard. Sometimes I colour a stamp and then I see somebody else who's coloured it and I think, oh yeah, that's how it should have been. But to me, you know, it's poetic license really. You can do whatever you want to make it your own. If you decide that you want a certain colour or a certain way that something is done, you do you. So a little bit more brown there because I'd kind of used up a lot of the walnut stain already, but that's because the main colour on her hair I want to be brown rather than orange, because orange is obviously quite bright. So I think that is all hair, and that is all hair, and this bit up there, maybe the bits around there. So let's grab a tiny bit more and just start going in now with these. So get a little tiny bit of orange now and work that in. On each of these kind of sections up here, and you want there to be some contrast. You know, you don't want it all to be flat. You want it to look like your hair does in the light. You know, if you look at yours, it isn't one colour. It has multiple colours on it. So, I think we've kind of got most of the hair there, but we'll... oh, no, there's a bit here. if there are any more. As I say, we can come in after we've done some of the flowers. And I'm not worried about finding a couple more bits. You know, I've still got the ink pads here. It's not like I have to make up any paint mixes or anything like that. I think that might be a bit of hair there. So let's give it a go. So I'm just going to clean my brush. So I'll squirt a little bit of water there and clean it off. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all that water because it's all slightly brown. I'm going to leave those colours there for now, because if I need a little bit more, then I've got it there. I'd like a bit of green for the greenery in her hair, and I like some pinks, purples maybe. So maybe some picture raspberry, some seedless preserves maybe, and shabby shutters. Shabby shutters is one of my favourite greens, so we'll see how we get on with those. Okay, so I'll just move those out of the way so that I can quickly just put some ink up here. Some green, some purple, and some of the pink. And the reason I'm putting it here is so that I don't get any water onto my actual ink pads. So again, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a pool of water here. I'm going to get some green, and we're going to stick some of that on some of the leaves and just go for it. Now, I might give this a blast with a heat gun in a minute, because I actually don't want the colours to run, but I thought I'd try and do a fair bit before I did that. So I have to find out where all these leaves are as well now. Here. And it looks like there's a bit of hair in between there that I can see I've missed. But that's fine, because as I say, we can go back in. I'm not worried about that. I'm just going to go back over these leaves so that we can make them a little bit more green in certain areas, so that again they're not flat. They've got a bit of texture on them. I think that might be a leaf there. Sometimes it's really hard to tell, but as I say, you just kind of do what you feel. Okay, now I might also get a bit of another green so that I've got a bit of contrast on those. So maybe what can I have? Mowed lawn. It's a lot darker, this green, so I only want a tiny bit of this one, because I really don't want a lot. So you can see I'm dragging that out a little bit, and I'm just gonna stick that in there, in the corners, just a tiny little bit, and because it's still a bit wet, it will come out into it, and it just gives it that tiny little touch Now I'm going to just blot that slightly. Come over to this side and do some there as well. Yeah, see, that looks a lot better already. Brilliant. Okay, so now let's go for some... Oh, I can actually see some berries in here as well, so I may get some festive berries out, because that's another good colour. Ooh, it's very red. Very, very red. I will not be doing that one until I've dried the others, I think. So I'm going to get a little bit of this purple and just pop it in the centre there of these. And I'm going to take that purple, off my brush. Just get some water and actually take that out to the edges. Because then taking the water out to the edges will mean that any more I put on there will flow better. Okay, so I'm going to do the same with these up here. So just water. I have got a tiny bit of the purple, but that doesn't worry me, because what I'm trying to do is just wet them so that when I do this, it has a life of its own and kind of goes up inside the petals a little bit, and then it's more organic. So again, I'm going to take that bit off, get some water over these, just with the water, get a little bit of that seedless preserve, pop it around there. Okay, I'm going to come back over here just to make it slightly darker in the centres, and up here, and back down here. Because if you just give it a tiny bit, you can see where it's soaking into the paper and that you might need just that tiny amount. And I'm only going around this kind of centre bit the second time I do it and the third time I do it, just to add a darker region in those centres. Okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to take that off my brush, and we're going to go for a similar thing with some of these flowers now. Now there was a little bit of brown there, so I'm just going to wet that and then take that out a little bit, because I don't really want brown on my flower. But I mean, to be honest, you won't actually really notice it. So again, a little bit of the pink, and it's watercolour, so I'm doing it roughly. There's another kind of one here. I'm just going in there. We're going to do this one as well. And it's just that hint of colours. And you can see that picked raspberry and seedless preserve go really well together. I think they're a good combination. It's one of my favourite pink-purple combinations. And again, just dotting some more of that pink in around the centres of the flowers, just so that we get a bit more colour. Okay, now I'm going to do this flower here. I've just spotted another strand of hair there, and we're going to do this flower over here too. And with that one, I'm going to add a little bit of seedless preserve as well. Okay. Oh, there's another flower there. It's so intricate, this stamp, honestly. You see bits, and that's why it's also good to keep the ink pads out and keep all of the colours around here, because then you can actually go back and get some when you find another little thing. See, there's another flower hiding behind there. Right. Oh, another flower here too. They really do hide. Really, really do hide. Oh, I can see one there too. I'm sure you can see these and you're probably shouting at the camera. But when you're actually doing this, you're so absorbed in what you're doing at the time that you don't see things. See, there's another little flower. I'm going to get a little bit of the purple there on that one. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little bit of this festive berries, and I'm going to start on this side. It is actually quite an intense colour, this one. Quite intense. So I need to be kind of careful about where I'm putting it, because red is one of the hardest colours to actually get out again. So there's more over this side. Okay, now we're going to go in again, but just on the one side this time, just to try and give a little bit of depth. And again on the one side. Okay, so those are my berries. I'm actually going to give her a painted nail here as well, with this festive berries. And there she has a little bit of nail as well. Okay, I think that works well. And so I'm going to clean that red out of my brush, just onto my kitchen towel. And I think I'm going to add a tiny little bit more of this green into some of these. Just because I feel that they're a little bit pale now that it's dried in a little bit. Now, I'm sure I found another leaf when I was doing stuff, but I don't know where that leaf has now gone. Okay, so clean that out, And I'm going to do a little bit more hair because I found this other strand over here. Didn't I? And I'm sure I found another little. I'm going to colour this bit here in the hair colour too, because I'm not sure exactly what that bit is. Or what that bit is. But it's open to my interpretation, so here we are. And this is what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to do some more of the different flowers now. And for these, I think that they should probably have some yellow middles on these flowers. So I'm going to take some squeezed lemonade, which is quite a bright yellow. And I don't need a lot of this one. So let's put that in the centre of these. Because these I think are more like daisies. Makes me think of that advert that's on at the moment. So daisy, daisy, daisy. And in the centre of these flowers too, I'm just going to drop a little bit of yellow. And I think that's pretty much those bits done. Okay, so I think I'm going to make some of these bits over here green where they're sticking out, and I don't know whether this is the right thing to do, but it's my choice and that's what I'm doing for those. So, you know, here we are. Because I think, I don't know what they could be really. Okay, and I've just found the other bits of hair which were in here. And that's what I was saying earlier about, you know, you can go in and just fill those bits in afterwards once you've established exactly what they are. So I would say there's probably another little bit of hair there. Okay, so I'm going to just take a tiny little bit of brown and just put it under that bit there, just to give you the sense that she's got brown eyes, because I don't want it to be very brown. I just want a hint. And I think, you know, that gives you the hint of the brown eyes. Now, I said I might change her lipstick colour, and I think I'm going to do that now. Or her lip colour, should I say. And I'm going to give her slightly redder lips. I'm going to do that, but then I'm going to dab it off. Just to knock that back slightly. cutting this video or anything like that. I want you to kind of see how it is really. So she has a dress. So I'm going to get myself some new water because that had got discoloured. And I'm going to use some of the pinky colour, I think, here, the picked raspberry. And just pull that out there. Just to give her a little bit of colour on her dress. As I say, I want this to be quite nice and light and summery. And then her dress also goes in front of her arm here. So we'll again just give her a little bit of colour on her dress there. Okay. So you can see that this is now pretty much done apart from those wings. Yeah. So I think I'd like to do some kind of light bluey kind of colour on her wings, maybe bluey green, maybe some salvage patina. So I'll pop a little bit of that there. And tumbled glass. They're kind of two bright light kind of colours. So we're going to just go in and do some of this, not too kind of coloured for the first coat, just so that I could see how it looked, and then slightly more. Yeah, I think I quite like that. So we'll get these done, and then we need to kind of mount it up a little bit and put it onto a card base. So I'm going to go back in with a little bit more colour on some of these, make them a little bit darker. There we go. And the last two bits down here. And I'm trying all the time to stay away from the hair so that I don't get the brown coming into these. So, well, clean our brush. And I'm now going to use the other colour, the tumbled glass, to bring this in around those little panels that I've just done. The colours don't differ too much, but that's okay. You know, I wanted to go with kind of something a little bit different for her wings, and so that they would stand out a little bit more. as compared to her flowers in her hair and stuff like that. And I think they certainly do stand out a bit more. These tiny, tiny little strips down here. Quite tricky, really. So make sure you have a small enough brush to just go down those. Ah, that's a bit of hair. I'll have to come in with the brown on that bit. See, even right till the end, some bits escape. And you know, if I'd have made that part of the wing, I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't have noticed, to be quite fair. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a tiny bit more of the colour that's in here, because I can see there are white bits. Now, let's wipe that off, and I'll go back in and do a little bit of the brown on this again. And a little bit of the rusty hinge. Ooh, it's quite a lot again. That's fine. So, okay. Now, there's something else just behind there as well. So, when we don't really know what something is, and we want some colour there, I'm going to colour it with hair colour. Okay, I'm not sure about these. I think they need to be slightly different. So, as I've got some of this green here, which is the shabby shutters, I'm just going to take a little bit of that shabby shutters and go over here. Actually, I'm a lot happy with that colour. A lot happier. So we're going to do that. And this is it. You know, you can change it on the fly and just make it what you want. You know, if you're unhappy like that, then you just do something else with it. There's nothing to say that you're right or wrong. And if you don't like your work, then, you know, you need to. So that's the main thing. You like it, you be happy with it, and then hopefully other people will also like your work. There we go. Yeah, I like that contrast a little bit better. Now I can see she has an earring here, and I might do that in this Seedless Preserve. There. Okay. So her face still looks a little bit flat to me. So I'm going to add a tiny little bit of something else. Tattered Rose. I'm going to put a tiny bit of that up there, because it's kind of not pink, it's more skin-like. So I'm going to do a little bit of that there. So again, I've concentrated under the neck. And on top of the shoulder there. Oops, daisy. That's a bit better colour. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I think that's not a bad piece of waterwork colour. I'm going to give it a little blast with my heat gun. You can see, because I've heated it and it was wet, it's curled up, so I'm going to just turn it over and we'll have it go back. So I think that's pretty good. Now I want to make a little bit of it more shadow around the outside, so I'm going to do that. And I think I'm also going to cut this kind of quite close now so that I can get a line here. And then we'll take it from there. So I'm going to move my colours for now so that they're out the way. I'm going to bring in my trimmer. The first piece that I'm going to trim, I'm just going to see, yeah, the light's fine. First bit I'm going to trim is that bit down there because that has an edge to it. And then I can cut, not quite, there's a tiny bit of white. And then I can actually make sure everything else is straight compared to that line then. There we go. So I am going to put something behind that, and you will see now what kind of process I go through. I look at it and I think, does that go? To me, it doesn't actually pop enough, so I feel I want some kind of purpley reddy kind of colour behind it. I have a red here. Now you see that really makes those colours pop. So then if that's onto there, that looks much, much better. And I would just maybe take the red down. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring the trimmer back in. And we're going to cut this. So I normally do everything by eye. I don't kind of measure. I just go, right, okay, I want that much around it. And actually, let's put that back in so that I can actually line it up properly and see. Tiny little border, and that just helps bring the reds out of here. Okay, and then I'd like some gold around it as well, so I'm going to cut that so it's straight, and then we can work off that. And again, I don't measure, I just go like that and say to myself, I want that border. So if I line that up roughly, and then I can see that I want to get it there, and there. Okay, so I now have my little girl, or lady. I have the red mat and the gold mat. And I think that's pretty good. So I now need to just find a card blank and then come back in and mat that all up and layer it all up. So have one of these craft cards, which I think that is too samey, so I'm not going to put it on craft. Or I can have a white card. Yeah, see, that looks a lot better onto that white background, but I'm not sure I want it that kind of white, so I might do something else on here, kind of with those colours I had. So I'm going to bring back my mat, and by way of using some of these colours that I have, I'm going to use some of them on to this background. So I have a little bit of acetate. So I'm going to just put some water into those first two and pick some of those up, and I'm just going to put it on to the card blank quite randomly. Just around the outside, just to give that sense of colour. Okay. Let's move that out of the way and get my heat gun again. And the card will bend a bit, but that's okay, we'll straighten that out. Okay. So I'm just kind of going to bend that a little bit back to give it a little bit of flatness again, because it's obviously not very flat when it's warped. And then that all literally now ties in, because we've got the inks that we had before. So that's, I like that. So I'm just going to glue this up now. So we will put some glue on this mat. And pop that onto the red. Now what I tend to look at is I align that and then keep the same distance here and here that I've got at the side, and then the rest in theory should work. And because I know my desk is clean and it's all dry, I tend to turn it over and flatten it down. So then again, pop this on to the mat below. then that will go onto there. But this still feels slightly, maybe not, maybe it is okay. I thought it might be still slightly damp, which it probably is. And then we'll do the same with this and drop that onto here. And there we are. Now, the last thing to do is just think about a sentiment. Okay, so I'm just going to grab my sentiments over. So I have a whole range here. Let's just move the card out of the way slightly. Happy birthday, happy anniversary. And these are all Stamp Addicts. What about follow your dreams? I think that's quite a good one. Okay, we're going to go with that. So now I want a tiny little bit of card, and I literally have all kinds of bits and pieces in a box that I keep. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to stamp onto there. Now when I've got tiny little pieces to stamp, I have a tiny little stamping platform, and I have bits of tape on here which is just rolled over so that I can actually keep it in place. I tend to push it up to that corner as well, because then literally I know exactly where things are. So I'm going to have this in black. So I'm going to grab my black ink pad, which is a VersaFine Clair. Put some ink on there. Stamp it down. Just gently, not pressing massively. Just wait for the ink to transfer. And then if there are any bits that I've missed, I can go back in. It's like that little O there just needs a tiny bit more from me. So I'm going to ink up again and stamp on there again. And it's in exactly the same place. It hasn't moved. That's better. Okay. So pop my ink away up there. I have a cloth that I tend to clean stamps with. It's not clean, as you can see. It's obviously been well used, but it does the job. And so now we can cut this down and pop it on. Now I think I'll have a look at that when we're going to go, when we have this sort of done. I have a trimmer for slightly smaller pieces. So let's, and what I tend to do with this is line the tops of the words up with that edge there, and I know that that gives me a little bit from it. So now again I'm going to do the edge of that saying so that I get the same border all the way around. Let's pop that under there. And this time I haven't really got too many long letters on this one, so I've kind of lined that up, and then I've made this the same distance all the way down, and then there's just one last cut against the side of here, so pop that there. There we go, and there we have our little sentiment. Now pop those away. Now I have the card that we put around the other one, so I'm just going to cut this so that I have a little bit of the red around there. Okay, so I want to look now whether I want the gold as well, or whether I'm just happy. I'm not sure I like the red around it. So let's grab this. Okay, I think I was just too generous with the red. If I have a tiny little bit, I think that will work a lot better. So I'm going to use my scissors for this. And I'm going to line it up. And then we'll have a little bit of this. Let's pop that down there a second. Okay, so now we've got our sentiment, which we can either put down there or up there. I don't know why, but I actually like it down here more, even though there's more space up there. So I think that's what we're going to do. So let's put my scissors away, clear up a little bit, and we'll stick this bit together. Some of the glue sneaked out there. That's just because I dragged it a bit, I think. I dragged it that way. Okay. And then this one. Again, a sneaky bit of glue. Okay, so tiny little bit of glue there too. Okay, see, nothing goes perfectly all the time. Everybody has these little bits and pieces. So this one, I think I'm going to put down here. Now it actually needs a few little foam pads just to build it up a little bit. So I'm going to grab some foam pads, put them along the bottom of here. And up this side. And then it should be a bit more level. So luckily I haven't got too many of these, so it shouldn't take me too long to do that. There we go, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on each of these. I don't trust dry glue particularly. I don't know why, it's just the way I am. And there we go. So pop that on. And there's our card for today. So I will pop that under a book because it is still slightly warped from putting the colour around here, but it's not too bad actually. So I hope you like that, and hopefully if you do like it, we'll be back for a little bit more. Okay, thank you for joining me, and please subscribe and let me know what you think. Bye.